The June balance patch cycle is in full swing for Deadlock, with a wide array of hero changes hitting the servers, as 19 different heroes step off the New York subway platform with a mixed bag of nerfs, buffs, and huge collections of bug fixes and mechanical overhauls to some heroes' kits, featuring changes such as Apollo getting knee surgery and disengaging sigil becoming a true movement ability, Holliday finally gets mentioned in a Deadlock patch for the first time in a long time, and it brings massive gameplay changes to her powder kegs, opening new gameplay paths for the sheriff's barrels, with Graves being on the receiving end of nerfs once more, and Vindicta sets her sights onto a juicy buff for her sniper rifle, with Assassinate now hitting hard with spirit-heavy builds. The fast-paced fights of Street Brawl have even seen a 10% global reduction to range and radius on all items and abilities in the game. So, strap in and let's kick off tonight's episode of Patch Notice. As always, I'm your host Jacky and you're watching Dead Air. Daisy and I have been hard at work to get tonight's patch coverage ready so you can be up to speed with the meta shift and gameplay changes it brings. Featuring over 300 unique clips recorded for today's episode alongside Daisy's amazing handcrafted graphics and artwork. So do be sure to subscribe to Dead Air if you enjoy today's video and never miss a Deadlock update. It's a great way to support us both. With that said, let's get into the meat of today's update, the hero changes. We'll start off with Apollo, who's received some big changes all centered around his primary ability, disengaging sigil. The velocity of sigil has been increased by 50%, a massive increase to its ability to project you far further when used as a movement-focused ability, something that'll be a key element of tonight's mechanical tweaks to it. As you can see in the before and after footage, you'll cover a lot more distance when using sigil now. Additionally, the vertical and horizontal velocity application ratio has been changed to now be 1:1 in both spectrums. Both of these give you greater control and consistency with the spell, especially when you factor in this next change. You'll now have control over the directional velocity applied from using sigil by holding keyboard inputs, giving you the option to reduce your distance traveled by holding W, send yourself an even greater distance backwards when holding S, and allowing side-to-side movement with your A and D keys, opening up some great paths for this to now be a true movement ability for the hero, making slowing Hex a very lucrative purchase when facing off against fencer mains in lane. Even the ability point investments play into this concept too, so let's see what's changed there. The tier 1 AP upgrade has been tweaked from granting plus 30 damage to now giving you a plus 25% fire rate and bullet speed buff for an 8-second period. The tier 2 AP that previously granted this fire rate increase has instead been modified to now be a slightly watered down version of his previous tier 3 reward. It'll now be giving Apollo the player on hit with sigil receive plus 1 stamina charge refunded, and reset your air jump and air dash limit, with a new tier 3 AP power spike being given to the hero. For 5 ability points, you'll unlock the ability to recast sigil within a 4-second window of using the spell. All of these changes in conjunction effectively reduce the initial flat damage and fire rate buffs of the spell, but compensate with drastic openings for movement outplay, alongside additional follow-up damage from the ability with a successful use of the recast. All in all, I think it's a great overhaul for the ability's application and should be thoroughly enjoyed by Apollo mains. If timed well enough, you can even get the benefit of a wall jump into sigil with directional movement to send Apollo a ludicrous distance, so the options for Apollo rollouts are looking tremendous, especially for the fast and furious among you. Let's move on to our next hero though, as Apollo chases down Bebop. For the Scrap Golem, we've seen tweaks to 2 of his abilities tonight. Starting with Exploding Uppercut, the tier 3 AP reward that grants a missing health heal on hero hit has been buffed by 1%, going up from plus 17% to plus 18%. Alongside his sticky bombs once again getting a new flavour on the tier 3 AP reward. They've removed the plus 20% fire rate granted on cast and instead have given you a plus 25% debuff resistance increase for a 6-second period. This bonus will also apply retroactively to currently applied debuffs on you, whilst also fixing a bug that was causing the bonus effects granted to be cut short when the bomb detonates, rather than remaining for the full duration of the buff. So you're losing fire rate scaling for gunbot builds, but gaining greater self-sustain and survivability on uppercut and bombs. Dropping away from the Rock'em Sock'em robot though, Calico is next in line for some buffs. Let's talk about Gloom Bombs. The melee resistant shred debuff will now stack additively, rather than resetting the 6-second window of application, alongside the duration and debuff percentage being increased, going up from -5% for 5 seconds to -6% for 6 seconds. So each individual Gloom Bomb on impact with a hero will now be applying an additional -6% resistance to melee damage, rather than on explosion, so you can now benefit from comboing your leaping slash whilst the bombs are applied to the hero, but not yet detonated. Previously, you had to wait out the tick time until they had exploded to actually get the combo off for the increased melee damage. Alongside this, there's some outright buffs to her ultimate Return to Shadows as well. The base damage has been upped from 140 to 150, so a 10 damage increase there, with the tier 2 AP additional damage also getting a further 10 damage buff, going up from +65 to +75 damage. And finally, the tier 3 AP reward heal granted on completion of the ultimate has also been increased, going up by 100 health, from 350 to 450, alongside of course refreshing all of your cooldowns for Calico's kit. Some very juicy buffs for the assassin for hire, Calico. As she runs off though to track down her next target, let's turn the handle and focus on the doorman. It's all call bell changes once again for the door fella. The explosion damage base spirit scaling has been reduced from 1.3 to 1.2. with a further reduction to the overall spirit scaling granted on the unlock of his tier 3 AP reward. Pre-patch, you'd be granted 0.4 increased scaling. It'll now instead be reduced by 0.05 to a 0.35 scaling ratio. So 2 reductions to Callbell's impact and explosion damage growth there. Going through the door to the back rooms though leads us to Darcy Graves, back in the notes with even more nerfs. Jar of Dead continues to get balance adjustments as of late, with big changes here to the frequency of potential casts. The death collection rate has been reduced by a flat 20%. This is a big nerf to the recharge time between your Jar of Dead heads, with each collected source of death now providing a massively reduced fill percentage. On top of this, the actual damage and damage growth from spirit scaling has also been further reduced. It's gone down from 17 damage with 0.27 spirit scaling to 16 flat damage with 0.25 scaling. And if you thought that was the end, Graves mains, there's another big nerf coming. The soul bounty tied to deadheads, effectively the net worth of each deadhead killed by your opponents, has also been increased for the second patch running. It's gone from 5 souls plus 0.25 souls per boon to now being 7 souls base value with a 0.5 souls per boon growth. So you'll be providing increased soul economy to your foes now. Keep this in mind as it does add up. Lastly, the tier 3 AP reward on Grasping Hands has also been nerfed, with the Immobilize effect duration being reduced from +1 second of duration granted to 0.75 seconds. So a slight reduction to the CC there, with 2 seconds being your new total length of the lockdown. Dashing away from Graves though to the depths below leads us to Wesley Grey Talon, next in line for a swift nerfing. Firstly, let's talk about his weapon, as it's seen 2 direct reductions to damage and weapon growth. The arrow cycle time has been increased from a rate of 0.5775 to now being 0.6. This is resulting in roughly a 4% damage per second output nerf. You can see how this delay in next arrow cycled looks with the before and after footage that's been on screen. Additionally, the bullet damage growth rate for his bow has also been reduced from +1 to +0.85 damage per boon. Ability-wise, Rain of Arrows also saw a nerf in regards to an overall cooldown increase. Its base cooldown went up from 22 seconds to 23 seconds, alongside with the tier 2 AP reward that reduces cooldown, now only providing a -12 second reduction instead of -13 seconds. Following on from Grey Talon, our next hero sprints into the scene. Holliday, for the first time in a long time, has seen some big changes in a balance patch. So let's blow the top off. You'll now be able to alternate cast her powder kegs, granting you the ability to place them on the floor at her feet, giving you much more control over her barrels whilst not in the air. A great functional change that opens up a lot of windows for gameplay fluidity on the hero. Although you can't stack multiple barrels together to blow someone away with a single punch, as it'll only project one powder keg forward no matter how many are stacked on top of each other. But you will have complete control to direct them wherever your crosshair is aiming now, and better launch angles, improved velocity, and overall casting feel with her barrels. Functionally, this feels like a great change, and one I'm a big fan of. But it doesn't stop there. You'll also now start with 2 keg charges at the base level of the ability. However, the downtime between charges being restored has also been increased to 7 seconds from 3.5 seconds, with the spirit scaling of the barrel's damage also going down from 1.6 to 1.4. But this will balance out with the ability point rewards. The Tier 2 power spike no longer grants plus 58 bonus damage, however it instead grants a further plus 1 charge on the ability, alongside the Tier 3 AP reward that used to grant plus 2 charges and 0.4 seconds of displacement, instead now giving you 100 flat damage, alongside a plus 0.5 scaling ratio increase on her barrel's damage, and a minus 5 second reduction to charge time, meaning you'll be left with an overall higher damage cap and lower time between charges than pre-patch. All that with far more mechanical fluidity on the ability now too. This is a huge buff for Holliday, and seems to be a way to try and encourage more players to pick her, with the hero having a rather low pick rate. Barrels aside though, let's talk about the bounce pads. Firstly, we've seen some tweaks to the nature of issues and general clunkiness when placing barrels on elevated surfaces, alongside the landing radius AoE of the stomp also being reduced from 12 meters to 9 meters, and the Tier 3 AP reward being changed too. It would previously be granting a bonus 68 stomp damage alongside increased spirit scaling, whereas it will instead now grant a plus 0.7 second stomp stun, a change that might send shivers down spines of players that were around back during the Hero Labs era of Holliday's development. Although this stun effect won't be inherited by allies that use your bounce pad, so you can't chain them together. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on these Holliday changes down below in the comments. Bounding away from your favourite cowgirl though, let's talk about Infernus, who's burning red hot. 2 interaction-oriented fixes here for Fern. Firstly, we've seen his passive Afterburn getting a fix related to max duration refresh, not accurately accounting for both debuff resistance and bonus ability duration. So a logic end fix there. Alongside his ultimate Concussive Combustion not benefiting from investing into his Tier 2 AP upgrade that grants a cooldown reduction or CD reducing items that were purchased whilst it's on cooldown, effectively resulting in artificially longer cooldowns at certain points throughout games for Infernus. Thanks Valve, very cool, or in this instance, very hot. Sprinting back to the bar though to mix his next drink, Ivy comes bouncing along with a single note relating to stone form. Valve say that they've fixed a bug where it's randomly been dealing significantly more damage than actually intended. This makes sense, as sometimes stone form would randomly nuke your HP bar with no logical rhyme or reason, so being squished to death by Ivy should be far more fair now. As the gargoyle drops down, let's talk about mcginnis, who's up next. I thought we were safe, mcginnis players, when I saw another round of nerfs for Graves, but alas, Big Yoshi comes for us too. Mini turrets have been rescaled, with the flat damage going down from 30 damage with a damage spirit scaling ratio of 0.39 to instead be 24 base damage with a scaling multiplier of 0.42, resulting in the break-even point on damage now being at 200 spirit power investment. Additionally, the Tier 3 AP reward fire rate increase has also been reduced from granting plus 30% to plus 25%, so a 5% rate of fire reduction to the bonus there. We've also had another subsequent nerf to her ultimate, with Heavy Barrage's damage going down once again. The DPS has been reduced from 22.5 to 21. However, there is one big silver lining in this. Valve say that they've fixed the long-standing bug where at random points during the cast of Heavy Barrage, the ultimate would stop dealing damage. I had been experiencing this bug nearly once or twice a game on the hero, where the sound effect would continue to play but the rocket visual effects would disappear and the ult would stop outputting any damage. This was absolutely brutal for ultimate focused builds, so this is a great patch note to read as a mcginnis enjoyer. Give your salutes to Yoshi for that one, mcginnis mains. Sliding away from Maggie then, let's turn the page to our next hero. Oh, it's Paige. Two changes for the Bibliomancer. Firstly, her ultimate Rallying Charge had some nice buffs. The distance travelled required for the maximum amplified damage was reduced from 350 meters to 250 meters of distance, alongside being granted quicker cast periods, with the cooldown reduction granted with a tier 2 AP power spike going up from -30 seconds to -50 seconds. So you'll now be able to cast the ultimate every 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Keep in mind you'll be refunded half the cooldown if it doesn't hit anything at all. We've also seen her barrier plot armor being tweaked in the following ways. The barrier's spirit scaling has been increased from 1.3 to 1.5. This affects the health of the barrier granted, with the tier 3 AP increased spirit scaling of the barrier also going up from plus 0.3 scaling to plus 0.5 scaling. Climbing up to the heavens though, it's pocket rocketing forward next. Their bullet damage growth on the volley gun has been reduced from plus 0.2 to plus 0.16, lowering some of the sheer weapon power creep out of Glockit focused builds. Ability wise though, we've seen two varying nerfs. For Flying Cloak, the tier 3 AP investment has been nerfed by reducing the cooldown reduction from -13 seconds to -12 seconds. So your max AP cooldown will now be 1 second longer at 13 seconds in total. And finally, his ultimate has been nerfed, with it now only dealing half damage to objectives, so it won't be as effective to burn HP pools on enemy objectives with his ultimate. From Affliction to Riding the Lightning though, let's talk about our next hero, 7. His weapon damage has been tweaked with the bullet damage growth on his gun Cold Calculus, going down from 0.337 to 0.24. In conjunction, we've also seen Power Surge get a duration nerf with its tier 3 AP reward. It's going down from a bonus 12-second increase to instead granting 10 additional seconds. So Power Surge's full duration will cap out at 20 seconds now. And finally, for a cheeky bonus, you'll also be able to break golden boons and boxes with Stormcloud now. How lovely. I guess it's time to let out your inner Vandal, 7 mains. As 7 dashes off to commit crimes though, it's Shiv who's limping back into the patch notes next. Never safe from a swift round of kneecapping from Yoshi it seems, Killing Blow will now have a 30% longer cooldown if it fails to kill someone. So you'll be punished for using it as a movement ability and need to make sure it will execute someone if you cast it now. Sorry, Shiv mains. From sharpened steel to sharper claws, let's talk about Silver. Following on from the big nerfs in tonight's patch, Silver has been hit with some major reductions to survivability and damage output. I think Yoshi has fed the werewolf chocolate, as she'll now have a cooldown for Lycan's Curse recharging every 70 seconds instead of every 40 seconds. This is a huge bump in total cooldown length and will massively stall that feeling of her always being able to pop wolf form on demand. That's already a big nerf, but her tier 3 AP reward for her ultimate has also been reduced, with the heal element being entirely removed. Substantial reductions to her self-sustain and increased downtime without wolf form for Silver then. It feels like this frontliner might be more appropriate in an assassination role now. Feels like a really big nerf that will need playstyle adjustments and switches to your builds in reality. The irony of these changes isn't lost on me though, with the tweaks to the next hero in the update, Viscous. More lifesteal and even better escape potential when using his ultimate. That's right, goo enjoyers. The Puddle Punch tier 2 AP power spike that grants 40% lifesteal on hit has been increased by a further 20%, capping out at a whopping 60% here. So the self-sustain capability that was already very strong just got a massive buff on top. Additionally, Goo Ball has also seen the tier 2 AP unlock change to now grant a bonus 10% bullet and spirit resistance when you're inside the Goo Ball. This is added alongside the bonus damage granted from the unlock, meaning you'll now have a total of 45% damage reduction to nearly all sources now. So if a Viscous pops his ult, good luck killing that gooey balloon. As Viscous enjoys his life inside the cube though, let's get our next hero under the microscope. Vindicta is once again in the headlines with changes to Aura of Suffering and shocking reanimation. The base level of Aura of Suffering has seen its ability radius scale back by 1 meter, down from 9 meters to 8. However, you will be able to get this range back with the tier 3 AP unlock that will now be granting a bonus 1 meter radius alongside the bonus 15% damage application applied to all enemies that are inside the aura. Valve also state that they've made some improvements to the client performance related issues whilst the aura is active. Moving focus onto his ultimate, Shocking Reanimation, the cooldown has been increased by 10 seconds, up from 230 seconds to 240 seconds, with the tier 3 AP cooldown reduction also being nerfed to bring the CD down by minus 110 seconds, instead of minus 120, so around 20 seconds of additional downtime between popping Victor's ult now. And finally, the tier 3 AP damage on revive has also been increased, going up from a bonus of plus 150 damage to plus 175, resulting in an all-out total of 375 damage. As we fall down from Vindicta, the ghastly sniper scopes in on a nice buff. Vindicta has been gifted a nice jump in spirit scaling on her max bonus damage for Assassinate. This has gone up from a ratio of 1.7 scaling to 2.0. Lofty jump that will be appreciated by ult-focused Vindicta play with high spirit investment. And lastly then, let's talk about our final hero in the balance patch. It's Warden. He's another hero in this patch that's seen flat tweaks to his weapon. In Warden's case, it's the bullet damage fall-off that's been reduced from a 20 meter starting range with a max fall-off at 58 meters, to an 18 meter starting range with an endpoint being 47 meters. So a rescaling reduction to his weapon to start, followed by sweeping changes to his flat damage output with more power being shifted to survivability. In the case of Alchemical Flask, the spirit scaling was toned down from a 0.73 ratio to 0.63, alongside the AP tier 2 power spike being changed to grant less bonus damage but reduce damage output from enemies more. The bonus damage went down from plus 40 to plus 35, with the weapon damage reduction going up from minus 20% to minus 25%. For willpower, the spirit scaling has been increased from 0.5 to 0.8. This will affect the size of the barrier applied when using the ability, so a nice bonus to defense with higher spirit. They've also slightly nerfed the frequency of binding word casts too, taking down the cooldown reduction granted from his tier 3 AP unlock from minus 18 seconds to minus 14 seconds. And for his ultimate, Last Stand, they've buffed the lifesteal by 10%, taking it up from 65% to 75%, a decent increase there, alongside the ability points being changed in the following ways. The tier 2 unlock is now going to be granting an extra 5-second cooldown reduction, so you'll now have Last Stand available every 2 minutes now. And the tier 3 AP unlock will also be granting you an extra second of duration on the ultimate too, capping out at a 10-second duration at tier 3. Decent Warden buffs in reality. All in all then, Spirit Bebop is back. Graves' 57% win rate will continue to fall slightly, I'd imagine. The werewolf might be dead. Apollo actually has knees again, and melee calico is looking so hot right now. Oh, and Holliday might finally reach S tier status. Heroes aside though, let's talk about the more general changes to the game in tonight's update. Golden boons have been reduced in the vitality category. These breakables have seen the HP bonus for levels 2 and 3 being brought down by plus 5 extra health. Level 2 is active from the 10-minute mark, with the HP granted now being plus 20. And level 3 is active from the 30-minute mark, with the bonus now being plus 30. Moving on from breakables in regards to comeback souls, we've seen the kill comeback bounty values being increased by 8%, giving you individually a decent increase to help you out to get back into games following a brutal start to a match. Talking of soul economy, we've also had some more minor tweaks to the solar. The stalemate timer that kicks in if an urn fight is in the capture state for too long has been decreased from 75 seconds to 60 seconds. So you'll want to clean up your bouts for the urn quicker, or risk the urn spewing all of the souls out into the air if the fight is elongated for longer than a minute. Additionally, the soul urn bounty itself has been reduced by a 10% rate, although this is unapplied for comeback urns for the trailing team. And finally then, let's head over to the Curiosity Shop for 2 tweaks to the weapon and spirit category. The 1600 soul cost weapon item opening rounds had its conditional weapon damage bonus reduced from 30% to 25%. This is active when your enemy is above 50% total health. And the spirit power increase granted from buying the item has gone up from +4 to +7. And lastly then, for the 1600 cost spirit item Arcane Surge, Valve say that they've fixed various cases with the bonuses applied from timing your dash jump not working correctly. Thanks Valve. For what it's worth, this seems like a really nice balance patch with some quality changes. Do be sure to let us know your thoughts on the changes and tweaks though down below in the comments. And as always, thanks so much to our YouTube members that directly support us here at Dead Air. Your membership helps us make these high quality videos, and you allow us to put the time and effort needed to make these full time. If you'd like to join them and have your name featured in the end credits of episodes of Patch Notice, become a Deadhead today and join our YouTube members program. Otherwise, consider subscribing as it's entirely free and massively helps us out. Right then, with that said, myself and Daisy have some new builds to Theorycraft, so we'll catch you in the next episode soon. Bye bye for now.